again, and welcome to the Voices of Future Generations Children's Story Building webinar, Creating Captivating Settings. I'm Shama Noman, and I'm the English Project Manager for the Voices of Future Generations Writing Competition. And today is yet another session packed with ideas on how to capture your reader's imagination with special focus on settings. So today's thinking question is also really interesting. So here we go. How do stories come alive? How do stories come alive? Another point to think. Now, what is the role of a setting in a story? This is the most important question, and this is what you need to understand. A setting can do many things in a story. When you are writing a story, especially children in schools, when they are writing their stories, there is not a lot of focus in creating a setting. Just like you create your character, that's how you need to create your setting. A lot of thought goes into how you create your setting. So the setting determines the atmosphere of your story. It sets the tone and the mood of your story. For example, if you look at the picture in the slide, what do you think would be the mood or atmosphere of such a setting? Can anyone tell me? If you look at the picture in the slide, yes, it's a horror story, probably. It's scary, yes. Horror, scary, creepy, yes. Haunting, very good. Mysterious, mystery, it might involve ghosts, very good. It's a very dark story, I like that word. And of course, there's adventure for sure. When you see a picture like that, now I like that answer because you are somebody who looks beyond the obvious. The obvious thing is there, but you know that in a story like that, there is going to be adventure for sure. So very well done. It's like a nightmare. Absolutely. It's like a nightmare. It's very gothic, gloomy, dark, haunted. There's going to be action. Well done. It's terrifying. Murder is going to happen. Oh, wow. All of this picture comes to your mind. So see, just one picture can tell you so much about what the story is going to be like. So when you are creating this picture in your reader's imagination or mind, it's not just going to happen that easily. Of course, somebody who is a writer uses the magic of words to create those emotions or those feelings or those sensations. Always remember, when you want to create settings, you will need a heavy vocabulary. You'll need lots of words. So one great activity, of course, can be that you look at different kinds of pictures and create lots of vocabulary around it, okay? How would you define the atmosphere and tone in this picture? Come on, tell me, what is this picture going to represent? Cheering, crowded, tense, teamwork, sports, activity, achievement, success, happiness, victory, unity, team spirit, sport success, excitement, joy, discovery, coordination, good job, nervousness, yes, that's a good word, fun, enjoyment, teamwork. Now, when you are picturing this, I can see a lot of you are using your sense of sight to look at the picture and then come up with your ideas. Now, try to engage your hearing, try to engage your smell, try to engage the different tastes. What comes to mind? If you use all your 5 senses, how would you then define it? Yes, there's tension, there's sweaty. I like that. Good job. You used your 5 senses. You say speaking, whispering of plans, noise is there. Yes. There's discussion, there's this synergy. Well done. That's a good word. There is cheering. Yes, I can hear a lot of cheering. There's a lot of stress at the moment. And there's a lot of planning, a lot of making, a lot of tying up. Well done. So you can see that a simple picture can evoke so many ideas. So you can be that author who creates this kind of a picture. Now here it's easier because I'm giving you the picture and you're coming up with the words. If you are the one who has to write the words and then the reader has to create a picture, it's going to be a little more challenging. But no frets, because we are here and we're going to help you how to do this, okay? I'm going to move on to our next one. Now, this one here says, can objects in a setting play a part in the story action or climax? Okay, now you see here two pictures, one of a classroom and one of a grocery store. Okay, now if we look at the classroom, there are different kind of objects in a classroom, in a supermarket as well. So if we just look at the classroom first, and I ask you, can any of those objects be engaged in the action in the story or the story climax? What would be your ideas on that? Yes, of course, they can be used. So well done. First of all, you're absolutely right. Yes, objects in a setting can play a role or interact with the action that's happening. But how? Can you think of how a classroom object, let's take tables. What if you just take the classroom tables? How can they participate in the climax scene or in the action that is happening in the story? A silly prank, maybe, we use the table for a silly prank. Breaking the table, yes, through the fight, maybe there's a lot of furniture breaking around. It can be used for shelter. That's such a good idea. I mean, imagine that there is a natural disaster, there's an earthquake, everybody will be hiding under the table. And you could then take it one step further and super complicate the problem by thinking that this person who's under the table has a fear of closed spaces. So that might then intensify. Remember, you use your knowledge of everything that you've learned. So list out the complications one by one of what could happen. So absolutely, very well done. I love your ideas. Flying chairs. Yeah, good job. Things floating. People throwing things at each other in a fight. Maybe, the whiteboard suddenly starts writing something, or a message or a horror message turns up on the whiteboard. You can engage the furniture, the objects in your setting to become a part of your story action. Most of the time, we just write the stories happening in the classroom and we forget that the elements inside the classroom can truly interact with the characters and what's happening around. So the point of this entire activity, of course, is that whenever you sit down and decide that my story is going to start in the classroom, or like I said, your story starts on a railway platform or a train platform or the airport, you need to know what does the setting hold. And you need to have a list of things jotted down before you even start writing your story. That's extremely important, that you get all your data together, you do your research, you've got all your plans together, and that's when you can, move ahead and start writing. Okay? So that is an important detail that you need to follow when you are creating your settings. Now, the next thing comes in. Does your setting create conflict in the story? And the answer is very simple. Yes, the setting can play a huge role in creating the conflict in the story. The setting itself might be the problem. For example, if your character moves to a new neighborhood, the new neighborhood is new to him. He's a shy person. The whole setting, the neighborhood, is a problem for him because he has not got any of his friends. He's missing his old neighborhood. There is no familiarity in the surroundings, and that's what's causing the trouble. So the neighborhood as a setting might become the main problem. And so this is another way to look at settings, is that, the setting might be looking differently at one point of time. For example, in the beginning of the story, the setting for the child might be really alien, and he might not be fitting into the setting because it's new. But as the story progresses and as he starts to make friends in the neighborhood and he starts to adjust to the new surrounding, the whole neighborhood might appear as a more friendly place towards the end of the story. So the setting keeps changing. It's not necessary that your setting remains the same. It can change with the changing moods of your characters or the story as and how the plot changes. the setting also starts to look or appear different. So that's something you need to also take into account, that your setting will keep changing as and with the story changes. Okay. Then another thing is, of course, your setting might be a maze, or it might be, for example, it might be a natural challenge. For example, in the story, The Old Man and the sea is where most of the challenges happen. The sea is the setting, and the setting itself is offering all the problems to the old man. That is where he's meeting all the difficulties. And so the sea in itself is the problem. So your setting can be the problem in the story as well. Okay. Anything that gives you a physical challenge, anything that gives your character a physical challenge. For example, in the story, they are hiking and they want to, conquer the Mount Everest, or they want to conquer any kind of a, mountain peak. Then the challenges are being offered by the setting itself, which is a mountain. So you have to look at your settings and see what they can offer, and then, carve out a plan around it. Don't just say that my character is going to go up a mountain and then you don't offer any challenge from the mountain. You have to think about the challenges and complicating it. The story plot can be driven by the setting as well. So I'm sure you've all watched the movie The Titanic. Again, the setting was a huge cruise ship. The setting has been placed in yet another setting, which is the sea. The sea is a natural setting, and it offers you so much scope in creating your action. And that's exactly what happened with the Titanic. The Titanic, the problem and the challenge was the sea itself, along with, of course, the iceberg that eventually, sank the Titanic. So the wonderful thing about spaces that offer very little for the character to work on, it creates a lot of imagination. There's a lot of creativity in spaces where you feel like there's nowhere to run and nowhere to go. Now imagine that if your character gets kidnapped in the story and is placed in a room with just these bars, as you can see in the picture. I mean, as a writer, you'd have to be very creative to find an idea. You'd have to really look at how you're going to, jot down the escape of the character from your story. So creative writers do create settings that are challenging, where you are supposed to really think about how your character is going to solve the problem, or how your character is going to come out of the problem. So these settings are difficult to create, but if created, there is a lot of creativity that goes around the escape plan, or for the characters to really find a solution to the problem. So sometimes settings can be really, really difficult to understand. Settings can be really like dead ends. But then with your creativity as a writer, you create the action and the adventure around it. And that's how your character tends to come out of the situation. Also, less is more. So that whole idea of you with having very few things in a setting is going to push you to create something imaginative and creative to find a solution for the problem. It's always good to challenge, okay? If you find it difficult, you might abandon the idea, but never ever let go of an idea without exploring it. So imagine today that your character is in a room and there is nothing in the room. Maybe you can think of one or two things. Maybe there is a lamp, and there is, let's say, a chair, and that's all you have. And then you have to create something out of those things to make sure that your character is able to escape. So I want you to put yourself into some uncomfortable situations and try to think of an escape plan, which is going to get you moving towards action. It's going to give you ideas on adventure, and it is going to make your story more creative, which is something that we're really looking for. We're looking for creativity. We're looking for adventurous stories. And adventure always has a lot of action. Remember that, okay? Now, this is an important slide, so I want you to pay attention. This is one strategy that is going to get your story moving, okay? That is going to get your settings interact with the reader. Show, don't tell. This is a strategy that authors use to create movement in their story. Now, when we say create movement, what does that mean? So let's read it together. Create movement in your setting. Which details in the setting does your character notice first? Which details seep in later? Use active verbs or adverbs. Movement is created through smaller details. Now, this is an important word, smaller details. For example, he jumped. Like, these are active verbs. Jumped, kicked. Give me some other verbs. Come on. Jumped, kicked, fell, ran. Very good. Clapped, hit, fought, stopped, punched, walked, rolled, yelled. Very good. So these are active verbs that you're going to use that bring around movement in the story. So you have to use these a lot in your story, okay? Active verbs and adverbs. He ate the ice cream excitedly. It's an adverb explains how the action is happening. So explain all of the actions that are happening, because that creates a picture in your reader's mind, okay? Then, of course, another important point is describe your setting through a character's experience and knowledge. This is an important point, kids. Remember, if your character is poor, they might look at a grand hotel differently than a visiting millionaire. The things they notice might be very different. Imagine it this way. If you are coming from a village and you've never been out of your village and you come to the city for the first time and you enter, let's say, the Dubai Mall. Now, if you have never ever experienced anything like that, what are some of the things you'll notice first? Tell me. Imagine you've never ever been to a city or to a mall. You've come from a village. What is the first thing you notice? Lights. I like that. Some of you wrote shops. Of course, they look at the shops, but the immediate thing that strikes you is very different. It's the crowd, it's the lights, it's science, yes. It's technology. In what way, my dear? Explain the technology part of it. Colorful, yes, there's lots of color. Skyscrapers, that's in the city. In a mall, what would they notice? They would notice the escalators. They've probably never seen an escalator. That's something that would stand out to you. Now, if you are living in the city and you go to a mall, you don't look at an escalator and say, oh my God, look, there's an escalator, because you're used to seeing that. So that's not something you would notice in a mall, okay? So think of your character. If you have given your character a certain time and age and a certain kind of space that they're living in, then you have to think of what would be new to them, how would they experience different settings. So it's not necessary that both your characters feel the same way about the same place. They might look at it very, very differently, okay? Yes, the food court, very good. The dressing sense of the people, love that, very good. And the hotel, if it's a really big hotel, I think the first thing you enter, you are just awestruck by the grandeur, by all the big chandeliers, the lights, everything so fine and refined. That's the first thing that you know. Maybe you'd notice the carpets, the carpets are so lush and so beautiful. If you enter the city, the cars might be a huge thing that you notice. So the main idea is that all your characters in the story are not going to experience your setting the same way. You have to look at how much experience do they have with the setting to set the kind of things that they're going to be noticing or observing. Then, of course, reveal the setting through the character's mood. How we see things depends quite a lot on how we feel. The same familiar surroundings can have a positive and a negative influence on the character depending on their moods. This is an important point. The one that I shared in the previous slide where I said, imagine your character is coming to a new neighborhood. That neighborhood in the beginning might be a very negative kind of a place, but towards the end, when he makes friends and everything is good, might become positive. The school where you go, maybe when you're expecting a really good result or you're receiving a trophy, You're going to be so happy to be in that space. But if you're going there and you know that you're going to be reprimanded or you're going to be punished for something, the same space looks very different. So the same space can be described in a happy situation with more bright colors and happy feelings and a very positive atmosphere. And the same space can be, described negatively when your mood or your character's mood is negative. So these are some things that bring and create movement in your story. When you look at the smaller details are extremely important, okay? We're going to move on to the next slide, which is keep an eye for the smaller details. Now, what are those smaller details? If you know that, then you'll be able to create your settings in a more creative manner. Now, what I've tried to do is I've put up two pictures in the slide here, and the setting can tell you a lot about your character, and the setting can also, become help you to capture your reader's imagination. So if we look at the first picture with the red sofa, if you just look at that picture, can you tell me something about your character just by looking at that setting? Can you think of what your character is going to be like? Let's share some ideas. Come on. Is an organized person. Okay. She likes reading. That's a good thing you've picked up. Loves books. Is a plant lover. Very good, because you can see plants in the setting. Is a bookworm. Loves plants. Loves colors. Okay. Organized. Comfortable. Good. Likes nature. Very good. That's a good conclusion that you've drawn. Is organized. Luxury lover. Okay. Disciplined. Is an introvert. That's an interesting thing you've picked up there, but I want to know why you think they're going to be an introvert. What made you think they're going to be an introvert? Of course, an introvert is a person who's very shy, doesn't talk too much, doesn't mix up or blend too much. Likes to keep their house neat and clean. Has different ideas to decorate the room. An organized person. Okay, if you look at picture 2, what do you think of this character? Or what do you think the story is going to be like? Bubbly, okay. Artsy, music lover, young, someone young and dynamic. I like that very much. That's a great observation. Loves watching TV, dynamic, into art. Very good. Fun, very colorful, vibrant, likes colors, is humorous. That's an interesting deduction. Vibrant, adventurous, cheerful, probably a girl. Oh, that's a bit stereotypical. Vibrant, open-minded. I like that a lot. Waterfall lover. Oh, really? A watercolor lover. I've read that wrong, probably. Okay, so someone who likes comfort. Now, the picture also shows you that someone unconventional, because conventional people go by very safe colors. They like their rooms to have white walls. They like their room to have the beige curtains, a very safe kind of environment. So this person seems to be out of the box, very creative, very unconventional, probably doesn't follow tradition in life because the colors show their personality, okay? Big clap. So smaller details add meaning and give character to your setting. And don't forget the smaller details. When you're creating your settings, I want you to think about what color are my walls going to be? What color is, the vase on the table going to be like? Am I adding books? Does this character like to read? How do I show to my reader that my character is scared of something or loves something or is comfortable with something? Or my character has a point of view. So you can show that through your setting by adding in important objects and details from there, okay? Every time you look at a setting now, even if you're sitting in the room right now, wherever you are sitting right now, does that room indicate the character of your house? Does it indicate in any way the kind of people that you are, the kind of people that you like, the kind of things that you like to do as a family? Everything is representative of your character, your personality. So you can create your settings beautifully by keeping that in mind, okay? And if, let's say, that your setting does not represent your character in any way, then there are things more interesting to happen, because that creates conflict. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to play some music. What you need to do, and I want you to listen, kids, I want you to stop typing now and stop chatting now and just listen for a minute, okay? Because this is important. I need you to have nothing around you. If there's anything that's happening in the background, your television or so, please switch it off. I need you to close your eyes and listen silently to the musical piece that I'm going to play. So all of you had something or the other imagined, and I imagine a lot of you saw the beach, a lot of you saw nature. There was a lot of positivity, but at the same time, some people felt sadness as well. This is the power of sound. This is the power of music. And a lot of times we as authors completely ignore the fact that we are not listening to the effect that sounds have upon us. So another way of really engaging your senses and getting involved in writing a setting. For example, let's say you decide that this is the final scene in my story and it's going to be a happy one. And everybody is joining back and the friends are coming together after a long time. You might want to play a really snappy, happy reunion song and listen to it while you're writing your scene, because it's going to evoke that kind of emotion and it's going to push you to create a setting that's happy, colorful, and is representative of the emotion that is in. So engage your emotions definitely into getting your when you're creating captivating settings. It's important to engage your five senses. I hope that you do engage these activities, children, because saying is one thing and doing is another. Okay, I'm telling you a lot of things, but I want you to try them out. I want you to do these activities. Start engaging your five senses in a way that you look at the same thing that you look at every day, but it will appear differently to you if you begin to hear it, if you begin to smell it, if you begin to touch it. It's going to look different to you. It's an amazing activity that you can do. Okay. Now you're all aware of your five senses. Now every sense, do you know every sense has a different purpose? Okay. We take our senses quite naturally, and that's why again we don't think about them. But think about it when you are creating settings. So, sense of sight. When you see something, it gives you, it helps your character to make decisions. For example, your character can see that there's a huge wave coming, like a tsunami coming over. It's going to probe them to think what their character should do. So, the sense of sight gives your character reason to take a decision or to do something or take an action. Okay, it creates action in the story. Your sense of hearing can create an emotional connection. For example, somebody rings the bell and you go on to open the door and you hear your grandma or you hear somebody you really love. Immediately, the reaction that's going to come is going to be an emotional reaction. So you're going to react emotionally and you're going to recognize the sound, and the sound creates a different kind of emotion in you. So hearing can evoke emotions in your character. So engage your hearing to create emotional connection to your setting. Smell and taste, these of course can trigger memories. So imagine that the smell of for me, the smell of lemonade reminds me of the time when we were in school and we used to set up these stalls through different exhibitions. It was such a beautiful time for me and my friends. So I have a certain memory attached to that smell. For example, also, if you have somebody in the family who uses a certain perfume or a certain kind of odor, you recognize them immediately. Even if you don't see them and they've been in your room, you would know them because you recognize that smell. So you attach your memories to people, you attach your memories through smell and what you say, taste. Okay. Touching are, of course, sensory kind of reactions. So touching something hot is, this is how your character will react. Touching something that's rough is going to give you a different kind of a sensation. So engage your five senses to create your settings, because that is going to help you with creating lively settings. Now, remember the thinking question. This discussion can help you answer that question, okay? So now I'm going to ask you an important question again, because every writer, remember, is different. And every writer tends to engage one sense more than the other. So I want to know from you, which of the five senses do you engage most as a writer? I'm sure you never thought of it before, but now think about it. Like, which sense do you use the most when you're writing your story? Not that one sense is better than the other. I mean, all five senses are important, but it's interesting to think about yourself. It's important, boys and girls, to understand how much power you have when you are creating a story. You have a lot of power. Okay, your senses are working and they are giving you direction. So, how do you engage your senses? I've got 72 people answer this, and I'm going to show you the results. So mostly people use their sense of sight to write, which is true. But I'll tell you now, which is why a lot of times the settings do not come alive, because you're just seeing them and describing them as they are. But if you actually felt them or smelled them or heard them, or you engaged all your senses into it, you're going to have a different kind of description, I can assure you. So take on this challenge to pick something, pick any setting. You can go on Google and take out so many pictures. Pick any setting and then interact with the setting using all your five senses. And I'm sure that the description that you're going to write for your sense of sight is going to be very different from when you engage all your five senses. This is what I call the show and don't tell bingo challenge. Now, there are different situations given here, but you can pick any one situation. And I want you to show me the situation. Don't tell me. Remember, when you tell somebody, you're not using all your five senses. Okay? I want to feel what you are explaining to me or what you're describing to me. So here are your options. You can show a messy classroom. You can show a haunted street. You can show a busy supermarket, an inviting garden, a noisy football stadium, a quiet elevator, happy neighborhood, gloomy Monday, or thrilling festival ride. Thank you very much, children, for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.